This has been decades and decades in the making. The city in 1950 had 1.8 million people, now 700,000, dwindling on the way to 500,000, but the same square mileage, 139 square miles, the largest city in the United States. So they can't service it all, and they don't have the tax base to do it. Anybody with any money has left town, and you add in decades of financial mismanagement and corruption, and you've got a disaster in the making. As he said yesterday, the city's emergency manager, Kevin Orr, the city is insolvent. And the numbers are daunting. Let's take a look at what Detroit owes right now. $11.8 billion in unsecured notes to creditors, $6.4 billion in secured, another about a $500 million, a little more than that in terms of other obligations. This at a time when they have a deficit of about $374 million, would have been $130 million bigger if not for some borrowing. By 2017, they say they should have a deficit of $1.3 billion if nothing changes, which means 38 cents of every tax dollar they collect goes to debt service. By 2017, that'll be 65 cents. And they can't raise taxes. They're already at their limit. These are the highest taxes in the state on people who perhaps have the lowest incomes. Now, the things that really matter to investors here going forward, they've got pension obligations and benefits obligations in this $11.8 billion, along with general obligation bonds and swaps and derivatives that they can't pay. This could go to the Supreme Court. The whole idea of whether or not they can pay the pensions is going to be litigated, and whether or not they pay the general obligation bonds as unsecured creditors litigated. So some important implications.
Okay, so you mentioned it could go to the Supreme Court. Walk us just through the next couple of days. What's happening next, Mike?
Well, a bankruptcy judge will be appointed. The city is going to have to prove it's insolvent and can file Chapter 9. Then they offer a reorganization plan. They'd offered 17 cents on the dollar to creditors already. And then they have to figure out what comes out the other side. What kind of plan is there for a viable city once they've restructured?
My goodness. Now, you mentioned precedents. How rare is this?
It's actually quite rare. Since 2010 and 2008, 13 cities have filed. 5 cases have been dismissed. Not all states allow you to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy, so not every city can do that. But basically, you've got 4/10 of the eligible municipalities in the country have filed so far. So the whole idea that this is a part of a big wave, like Meredith Whitney once said, is not true. This is a unique, isolated event, and it is going to be a precedent-setting one.
So in other words, are they able to restructure much like a corporation would, so that the obligations they have, pension obligations to city employees, for example, could be changed, restructured?
They could, and that has never been done before on this scale, so that is one reason it may end up at the Supreme Court. Now, judges have limited discretion in this case under Chapter 9. It's different from Chapter 11, so it's going to be interesting to follow this throughout the years.
Yeah.